Welcome to the Jordan Lynae Show, where we go behind the brand, behind the breakthroughs, and into the real stories of entrepreneurs who did not wait for permission. They built it from the ground up with grit, faith, and full alignment. I'm your host, Jordan Lynae. 15 years of entrepreneurship, speaker, mindset coach, and business strategist. I help driven business leaders turn their brilliance into high ticket offers that scale from $10,000 to $100,000 days through my Catalyst offer formula and the elevated entrepreneur. Each week on this show, we pull back the curtain and talk about what it really takes to rise in the messy middles, the setbacks, the pivots, and the freedom waiting on the other side with the boldest yes. And today's guest is someone who said yes to what's possible and built a powerhouse business because of it. Meet Kristen, a former six-figure VP of sales who was let off without warning, without a backup plan, but instead of falling apart, she decided to bet on herself. That one decision became the turning point, and today, Kristen runs a multi-million-dollar company helping others do the same, turn uncertainty into unstoppable momentum. And in this episode, she opens up about identity, isolation, and what it really means to build a business rooted in alignment, not just achievement. So welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
What's up, everybody? Jordan, thank you so much for having me. It is truly an honor. And I love that you're already speaking into existence that I'm a multi-million-dollar business owner, because right now it's multi six figures, but we will quantum leap and step into that belief all day long. So thank you.
Feels so good. Yes, because I already feel that you're a multi-million-dollar company and you're just doing all the things and just really your mission and your drive to elevate so many lives. Entrepreneurs that have these big dreams and just being able to step into it fast, just really getting stuck on the stuckness. So I love all of that about you.
Yay. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, no, you go. Yeah.
I was like, well, like my main mission these days in life is to help people say yes and figure it out. And that allows us to, one of my clients just voice memoed me this morning. She's like, oh, I see it. If I just get out of my own way and take one tiny little step, that all of a sudden adds up to a lot of steps. And it is true, right? But it's easier said than done when it's the thing that's holding us back, like, or the thing that we've put imposter syndrome around. So I know, like you, I know we both teach on high ticket offers and helping other entrepreneurs and businesses, like I like to say, make more money. And it's really fun to wrap making more money in a framework to help people get out of their own way, which is say yes and figure it out, while also combining my almost 20 years in corporate sales to help them move the needle faster in their business.
And it's just really around the wording that you have is, so it's the sales queen and the say yes and figure it out queen. What I love about something that you really teach is taking the small wins. So everything just really having the small wins. So as soon as you say yes and figure it out and you make that happen, cheerlead yourself on and just always really based around kind of gratitude and celebration. So I love all of that about you.
Thank you for saying that. It's so important to celebrate the tiniest wins. I was innately doing this anyway, but then as a team lead, as a VP of sales, we were chasing multi-million-dollar contracts in corporate, and they would take 18 months to close. There would be multiple decision makers and stakeholders involved. Even when you got shortlisted down from 15 vendors to 3 vendors, there was more meetings on top of like meetings and legalese. And it can be very hard when you're in the trenches and your wins are so far away. And so we would celebrate smaller wins because salespeople need wins in order to keep going and showing up, right? And that started to become like, oh my gosh, like our team thread was on fire, simply celebrating little wins that had nothing to do with like that big win we were chasing. Yes. Now I help other entrepreneurs see the same, because dopamine, the feel-good chemical in our brain, This is all based on neuroscience. Neuroscience says dopamine gets released, not when we accomplish the end goal, but actually when we're making progress toward the goal. And when we pause then to celebrate the littlest, tiniest things, that is what snowballs us and creates momentum and like helps us keep going.
So good. And that's something really kind of taking all that and wrapping that around, that can just be like gratitude too. So around based business and being an entrepreneur, having those small wins, but also like the gratitude that's kind of tapped into all of that. The gratitude, yeah, the small journaling of the wins is, I love how you just put all that into perspective. So good. So really kind of talking about your challenges that you have faced in really walking through this journey as an entrepreneur. And I know we were talking before all of this, and you really never saw yourself as becoming an entrepreneur and really kind of talking about that journey and how you really transitioned into saying yes and doing the thing and figuring it out and just kind of surrendering basically into being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Did you grow up thinking you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or when was the goal or dream placed on your heart?
Yeah, I love that you bring that up, because that's always been something that has been so embedded in me, to be an entrepreneur. Nobody in my family, I did not grow up in entrepreneurship. My family worked from day one. Nobody really got a college degree. And I was kind of the first in the family to really have this big vision. So really having all of this and figuring it all out on my own, I knew that I would have a business, which was a brick and mortar, and I made it happen. But I also trusted. Yeah.
No, so my grandfather, right out of college, this is so fun, Jordan. I moved from South Bend, Indiana to Indianapolis, Indiana, so 3 hours away from my family. And my grandfather had a house there. So of this big house he wasn't like using. And so I moved in with my grandfather for like less than a year out of college. But it was so fun because we would go to dinner at 4 o'clock. I met all of his, his like veteran buddies, and I would play cards together. It was like the happiest moments of my life. But we would sit around watching TV after the night was over, and he would say, I don't know why anybody in our business or in our family doesn't want to take over our family business. And that was not correct. My dad is a very successful entrepreneur also, but he was talking about his business. He was an engineer, and so he had this all bearing manufacturing business. But it just like put into my head the idea, right? When somebody's like suggesting something to you that you don't even know what your path is at that point. And so here I was then 20 years later, right? And I had written on my whiteboard that I wanted to start my own business, but the timing wasn't good. We were renovating a house 2,000 miles away with no cash in the bank, right? I was climbing the corporate ladder. We had just had my second kid was still like 2 maybe. And there's never a good time, right? And so then April 17th, 2023, I got let go unexpectedly from my job without warnings, without still money in the bank, renovating this house and all these things. And that's the day I just decided, I drew a line in the sand and I said, today's the day that I start my own business.
So good. I love this story, because this story of just resilience and just making it happen. It's wild how sometimes big life things shift us into the person that we are today. So I just love all of that and that story.
I think because that's the thing, like I've tried to show up very authentically and share my journey, but people coming into my world right now, they'd have to scroll back 2 years to see all of this. And I think it's so important that as entrepreneurs and as coaches, that we continuously talk about the challenges we faced and still face. They look different now, but I'll tell you, like, it's not easy. It's not easy to be the breadwinner of the family and to lose your job. It's not easy to also be in the middle. Like we were just starting a divorce at that time. It's not easy to have like young kids. It's not easy to live so far away from your family and like have all these things going on. Like life just is always gonna life, right? But it's those of us who choose to show up every day, even when it's hard and even when it doesn't feel possible. And the thing I learned in sales was like, you have to just keep going, right? So a lot of times in my corporate sales job, there would be parameters around 100 phone calls a day, or I worked somewhere it was like 16,000 email you needed to send a month. And so these like metrics of, if I'm going to grow my own business, I know I need to make a lot of phone calls and make a lot of asks, even though it was really hard. I very much believe in mentorship. And I think I would say the same is true for you, right?
Yes.
So I had mentors and I was like, why, as a salesperson, is it hard for me right now to ask people for business when that's all I ever did? And he's like, well, because it means something to you now. I was like, and there were so many aha moments like that. The next time that I had a mega aha moment like that was when I started selling one-to-many, and I was over teaching because I was using the subconscious, what was been ingrained in my brain as a corporate salesperson, and it wasn't working. It worked. That verbiage worked when I was selling to like big corporate budgets. It wasn't working when I was selling to an entrepreneur, right? Where sometimes people are taking money out of their vacation account or their retirement fund in order to bet on themselves and say, okay, you have the system that's going to scale me. I know that's what I've done.
Yes.
And I had to like shift. So I think the biggest thing for me is like iteration of who you are as an entrepreneur. And like, I mean, then it's like, if you're not growing, you're dying. But like, it really is like the commitment to the destination, even though you can't see the forest through the trees, even though you don't know how you're going to get from where you are now to being a multi 7-figure business owner, but you're committed to getting there. Right. And so it's like, okay, detach from what I think I know, detach from what I think I need to do, and just like keep leaning in and showing up and asking for help.
So good. That really leads into, it's so wild. We can go on this journey and we can try to learn all of the things by ourselves for years and years and years. And you had mentioned the mentor. It really is hiring the mentor and getting in the room. And you never want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to ask the questions. And that's kind of leading into the whole journey of staying away from being stuck in the resilience and that we don't know everything. Yeah, so good.
No, right. And that's the other thing is like, wave at us if you've had more than one mentor. I think it's so common that the mentors I was with when I first lost my job, they helped me get my first 6 figures in business. I mean, they didn't. They had the system that I followed, and I showed up to the calls and I asked all of the questions. But then I was like banging my head against the wall about like, how do I scale? Like I was dying in implementation. I was either I was either in the Zoom meeting selling what I had already sold, or because now this is 8 months into working for myself, I'm like, I need a pipeline, right? It's like, I understand, like there are some attributes that clearly are at my advantage that I then teach my other clients, like coming from sales. It's like so often, oh my gosh, we like bet on this one yes that is like sounds very like we're doing this. This just happened to me the other day. I talked to somebody after somebody I'm partnering with talked to them, and he was like, yes, yes. And so then I typed up the contract and then nothing happened. And I was like, what? But like that happens all the time. And then we've since actually canceled the deal because it didn't make sense, even though the person said yes. But when you don't realize that that's going to happen, no matter if you're selling language translation services in corporate or if you're helping scale businesses from 6 and 7-figure years to 6 and 7-figure days, right? It's not you. You just need what is in your control is having enough people over here in a pile we call a pipeline that's like all on the verge of saying yes, or all being like groomed to want to hear more about what you're sharing, right? And we can use like masterclasses and webinars and social posts and podcasts to bring those people into our orbit. But it's so important that we keep going. Like that's like the whole big theme here is like, how do you keep going?
Well, and you just mentioning that, I think for a lot of people, that's a big deal. So as soon as you sent over the contract, it was a huge yes. And that could be a huge setback for so many to like not close on that deal, and what did I say, what did I do wrong, and you can go through that whole rabbit hole of all the things. So you bringing that up is huge. Yeah,
it is. It's interesting because to me, I like move right on, but
yeah,
you're right.
yeah,
That's where grit and resilience really comes in, like stick to itness, but also having a coach or a mentor to be able to say like, yo, so a lot of things that I do, and I think you know this now, is like,
yeah,
send me the screenshot of a DM or send me what you were talking about so that A, we can analyze where it might have gone wrong, and B, like then it's a coach in your back pocket to say, this isn't a you thing. Like we can't control what other people do or say, and they're not all going to say yes. Like even
yeah,
if they give
yeah,
you the verbal yes, like some people will still say no. And it's just like, that's okay. That's all part of the process. There's a book. It's not like I recommend the book, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
used to do network
No, I
marketing.
love it. Yes. No, I love books. Yeah.
And there was a book that was called Go for No. And that's
Mm.
also the concept is like, if I go for 100 no's, so if I reverse engineer what I think a no is bad, and I actually go for the no, guess what will happen if you go for 100 no's? How many yeses will you find by going for no? So it's just like little mindset hacks.
Yes. And that yes is going to be the best yes of your life. Just leaning in and yeah, figuring it out. Your whole motto on everything. Say yes and figure it out. So all those no's. So when we're really kind of getting into for entrepreneurship, what is something that you wish more entrepreneurs would talk about in their daily? You had mentioned about talking about the journey and the stories, but sometimes, that was 2 years ago. So I guess, yeah, kind of going into what do you wish more entrepreneurs talked about?
Yeah, it is like, and I'm saying it to myself too, right? Why not retell the stories from 2 years ago now? I mean, there's always new stories. Scaling to my first 6 figures was one battle. Scaling to my first 7 figures is another, right? And then beyond. So it really just depends. But also it's like permission, like the entrepreneurs like tap your chest and like I have permission to evolve. And so sometimes resharing your old stories doesn't serve you because now you're not attracting the same person that you once were, right? So the better I get, the higher level entrepreneur I attract, which I just had this moment recently where I partnered with somebody else to win this mega contract. And I know it's like my old brain, the Kristen who was a VP of sales and also an individual contributor for so many years, would win multi-million dollar contracts. Now, as an entrepreneur, I'm winning my first potentially multi-million, if not 1 million contract, right? And so then it becomes the evolution of who you are. So more also than just sharing old stories, I really is just like, just keep showing up and sharing the journey, like where you are today, because that's why people want to follow you. That's what makes you attractive to other people to come into your world, not this persona or this facade that like you have it all figured out, right? It's the concept of I'm figuring it out as I go and I'm bringing you with me.
So really getting into what is your definition of success? So when we say success, what do you really look at success as being?
I wouldn't have been able to articulate this definition of it had I not experienced fulfillment that I get by serving others with my gifts. Like, and I know you know, right?
Yes, yes.
And those of us who know, we know the feeling of like, I don't care what day it is, what hour of the day it is, like I'm showing up for the people that I'm serving. And I'm so committed to working with more people to actually have the impact that they deserve and that they're pushing for in their lives. Seeing other people win, watching other people implement like the frameworks I have or the strategies I'm teaching or even the tactics, and like receiving back the wins and like the words of affirmation and like them collecting money because their client, they just won their first $10,000 pay in full client. That there is nothing more fulfilling than seeing somebody else recognize that within themselves. That's like my definition of success.
That is So good. I know. It's where I wish I had my hat on right now and I could throw my hat. Because that's such a beautiful definition. Empowering others empowers us, and watching the success of others really strives our success. It's the giving and the receiving. I love that. So, what advice would you give someone that is kind of in a hard season right now?
Yeah.
Something I
Well, yeah, I mean, like lean in. I would say lean into a community, to your coach, lean in. I was having somebody, a lot of things like some we take for granted where we are versus where other people are. And I have clients that they too, like they're overwhelmed with something that they're doing in their business, or they're multitasking to a fault.
mm,
And it creates overwhelm. Or your kid stays home from school one day and like you're like, oh my gosh, I have this podcast I have to record, and you have
yeah,
to figure out how to deal with all of that. But those are lean in moments, right? I mean, I think like showing up as a human in all of your life, and allowing it to not be fearful. Like, if I show up vulnerably, am I going to lose business? No. I would just like automatically argue you'll win more clients the more vulnerable you show up. Therefore, you'll have the bigger chance to impact more people. And if that means having to cancel somebody or change something last minute because of like kids or life or whatever, that's okay. It's like most of us are solopreneurs. We don't have big teams. So in corporate, if I couldn't show up, or if I was on maternity leave, I got a bunch of people that are right there in the back that were like assigned to take over my account or help manage my team while I was out for an extended period of time, or if I'm on vacation or taking sick days. But a lot of times, like the fact that everything relies on us, it could create, right? Just like, oh my gosh, what happens? But I'm like, lean into the people that you do have, community, friends that we build through these communities, and then just ask for grace, really, right? Like your clients will extend you grace way more than you're going to let yourself believe that they will. And that's very humbling.
So good. So good. What is one message that you would leave today, and really kind of going on your system, your mission, your everything?
Yeah, I'm going to say permission to say no, because like, I just think it's so important for people to understand that like saying no is a gift, right? Understanding that we don't have to say yes to everything. And this is the say yes queen, right? So there's a whole concept in the book about saying no, the power or the permission to say no. And it's not to be taken lightly. Like we cannot do everything. The day that I said no to overworking myself and creating more burnout, because the first year in my business, I burnt myself out dying in implementation. And the second year of my business, I scaled back my work hours to 11 to 2 and barely work. In fact, I tell everybody I work with to like spend more time in their imagination, whatever that looks like. But that requires you to say no to taking more meetings just to trick your brain that you're being productive. That requires you to say no to social outings, or no to events that you just can't be everywhere at once. So even when you're working less, the idea is to actually work less. It is not then to fill your calendar with more. And so that's something that I'd want to leave everybody with, is just like the power of saying no.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for showing up with us. I am so thankful and so honored to have you as a guest today, and just hearing some of your powerful wisdom and your say yes queen, and sharing your story and the blueprint for what happens when we stop waiting and we start really building from trust and not fear. And if this episode really sparked something in you, share it with a friend who needs this message, screenshot it, tag us at the Jordan Lynae Show and Kristen Gutierrez, and tell us your biggest takeaway. If you're in a hard season, remember you're one decision away from momentum. Say yes, move forward, and figure it out as you grow. And to go deeper with Kristen, grab her free guide we'll drop the link below, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and come back next week for another powerful behind the scenes story that elevates your mind, your mission, and your income. Until next time, keep growing, keep going, and keep elevating.
So good.